So it works like any normal web map that you see often. You can open it up, you can zoom into certain areas, you can pan around. We have high resolution aerial imagery under here. What makes it a little bit interesting is you're not connected to the internet, which means everything that's going on here has to be loaded onto a server and is taken out into the field to the areas and brought to the participants in the study. So we've got a lot of different layers they can use to determine where they want to put practices on. For example, I'm turning on water quality layer here, as well as some sensitive wildlife habitat area. These two generally tend to follow rivers and creeks as well as wetland areas. So once you have your area defined, you can start designing, adding new practices to it. This is probably a good place for some prairie grass. We've got some sensitive wildlife areas here. And as you can see, I'm not being real careful about how I draw it because the application is going to clip to the design area as well as excluding farmstead roads and wetland areas because we can't change those. We can really only change corn. So we'll put a little switchgrass up here in the northeast corner. Again, it clips to the area. And then once you start and you have your design made, you give it a name and you submit it, and this is going to send it to the server for processing. And this is real time. It only takes a few seconds to run, and we'll come back with some design performance criteria. So it'll show a bar chart up here on top with how many acres in each type of practice, as well as some bar charts showing market return, water quality, and habitat quality. And we'll come back to those in a minute. This is what it looks like when you're down in one of the sessions. We've got people here using the interactive display. This group right now is drawing some riparian buffer strips with switchgrass along some drainage ditches. And you can see they're going along pretty well. And here's the design that comes from it. With this design, they were able to increase market return by about $13,000. They improved water quality as well as habitat quality as well. It's really kind of a crazy session. There's 5 of these displays with groups of 5, and people are really drawn to using the technology to working through these designs in a collaborative manner. We're just kind of panning around here so you can see what's going on. Once they're done drawing different designs, we give them one more tool to make comparisons. And this tool allows them to pull up 4 different designs and start looking at trade-offs, because some designs are going to do well with the market performance, others are going to do well for the habitat qualities, and you're looking to get kind of a mix of both of those so that you can optimize both market and habitat.
In the videotape that just played, you saw a geodesign planning process, and in that planning process you saw people collaborating together. It was collaborative in that folks can talk, listen, reflect, interact with one another, and try on different plans to get a sense of how well a specific planning idea is going to work. The geodesign system allowed them to very rapidly get information about how well a given strategy that they had developed would actually work in the landscape. It allowed them to work collaboratively with other stakeholders with whom they were working, so that they could rapidly prototype or rapidly develop multiple planning scenarios and evaluate each of those scenarios on a common set of criteria. It was adaptive in the sense that the group could change its mind. It could develop it could develop a plan, evaluate that plan, and then adapt the plan to try to enhance its performance based upon the criteria being used to evaluate the plan. So in talking about a summary of planners across time, in 1785 to 1900, we talked about Thomas Jefferson, Frederick Law Olmsted, Horace William Shaler Cleveland here in the Twin Cities, John Wesley Powell, Charles Eliot. In the period 1900 to 1930, we talked about Warren Manning and Benton Mackay, talking about overlay mapping and also talking about corridors and levees. In the Last part we talked about Ian McHarg, Julius Fabos, Peter Calthorpe. So as a summary then of landscape planning concepts coming out of this talk, there's a geographic focus in regional landscape planning on landscape and region as opposed to site. There's consideration and situating of diverse land uses relative to societal needs. It's kind of a jigsaw puzzle of trying to figure out what kinds of land uses can go where based upon societal needs and based upon characteristics of the landscape. Landscape features are used to guide this planning decision-making. There's a very heavy reliance on maps and manipulation of geographic information to assess the landscape suitability for multiple uses. And then finally, it provides a guidance for land use decision-making based upon intrinsic suitability of landscape characteristics. Thank you.